that every man born of woman is short-lived. Relatively speaking, we have such a short amount of time here. The pastor of this church, John MacArthur, who is now 85 years old, and will have a procedure this week. And we need to be reminded and comforted by the fact that his life is in the hands of a sovereign God.
John MacArthur, the esteemed pastor of Grace Community Church, recently underwent a significant heart procedure that has been a focus of much prayer and concern among his congregation and followers. On Monday, Dr. MacArthur, now 85 years old, had a new aortic valve installed. This procedure was highly anticipated and closely followed by his community, and it was met with relief and gratitude when it was announced that the surgery was very successful. Steve Lawson, a close associate and fellow preacher, had previously informed the congregation about this impending procedure. On the morning after the attempt on former President Donald Trump's life, Lawson shared his decision to change his sermon text to focus on the sovereignty of God. Preaching from Job chapter 14, particularly honing in on verse 5, he reminded the congregation that the Lord has numbered our days and that every aspect of our lives is under His control. Steve Lawson's sermon highlighted two pivotal reasons for this change: the recent assassination attempt on Donald Trump and John MacArthur's scheduled surgery. By referencing these events, Lawson illustrated the overarching theme of God's sovereignty. He reassured the congregation that God's control extends over all circumstances, from the highest political spheres to personal health crises. Lawson emphasized that our lives are foreordained by God, including the good works we are to perform and the number of days we have on earth.
And that was not that day. The second reason that I'm drawn to these verses and others is the pastor of this church, John MacArthur, who is now 85 years old and will have a procedure this week. And we need to be reminded and comforted by the fact that his life is in the hands of a sovereign God, and that his days have been determined by God from before the foundation of the world, and God will preserve him and God will sustain him until that day comes. And this says something to each and every one of us here today, that God has appointed the number of days that you will have to live here upon this earth. That there's a reason why you're here. And He has foreordained your steps before you were born. And He has foreordained good works for you to perform. And He has given to you an allotted number of days. And you and I do not know what is that number of days, and we do not know when the end of our life will come, but God knows, because God has foreordained it. And it would be good for us today to remember this fact, that God is sovereign over life and death. God is sovereign over time and eternity. God is sovereign over the affairs of our lives. And that we will not exceed the number of days that He has allotted to us. For the glory of God and for the kingdom of God. And as long as you are here on this earth, there is a work that God has for you to do. For Donald Trump, it wasn't his time. For reasons known only to God. There's something else for him to do. For John MacArthur, as he will have a procedure next week, as long as there's something left for him to do, God keeps him and sustains him and upholds him. And the same is true for you. The same is true for me.
This comforting truth was intended to remind everyone that, despite uncertainties, God remains in control. Lawson quoted Charles Spurgeon, who famously viewed the sovereignty of God as a comforting pillow upon which he could rest at night, taking solace in the divine orchestration of life's events. Fast forwarding to the update provided the following week, Grace Community Church shared the joyous news that Dr. MacArthur's heart procedure was successful. The congregation was informed that he is now recovering at home, feeling significantly better with improved circulation and breathing. MacArthur himself expressed his gratitude in a message, thanking everyone for their prayers and support. Steve Lawson reiterated this news from the pulpit, sharing a personal text from MacArthur that detailed the success of the procedure and his positive recovery progress. Lawson encouraged the congregation to continue praying for MacArthur, highlighting the importance of collective prayer and the power of God's intervention. John MacArthur's recent health update has been a journey of faith, prayer, and divine assurance. The successful heart procedure and his ongoing recovery are celebrated by his congregation and followers worldwide. As Steve Lawson's sermon from Job 14 reminds us, our lives are securely held in the hands of a sovereign God who has foreordained our steps and numbered our days. This truth continues to comfort and strengthen the faith community as they support their beloved pastor during his recovery. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome to Christ Community Tube, where we deliver Christian content from a biblical perspective. Please consider subscribing so you never miss an update, and make sure to click on the notification bell.